pet bills, meron kang agenda, meron kang niche na gusto mong ipakilala sa mga tao, you will probably request that you be a chair of this committee. And that's why you will that will make you want to vote for a specific Senate president.
Right. So basically, kailan nag-start ito na dumami yung mga committees para lahat naman may trabaho? Kasi the reason why I'm asking is this, I mean, we all know Risa Ontiveros was a minority. She continues to be a minority, but she was still in charge of a very important committee that culminated or had the denouement of Kibuloy being arrested. The Pogo Queens like Alice Go getting busted, right? Eventually, even the president going ahead and banning Pogos. So, kailan dumami itong mga committees na ito? And then, the next question, of course, importantly is, kailangan bang maging committee chairman ka per se? And kailangan majority ka to get the committee chairmanship so that you can be effective? Or pwede naman maging vice chair ka, di ba? Or you can, I mean, it's a collegial body of only 24 republics, right? So I think, I just want to understand how does it work. Because in the Congress, alam ko 300 kayo. Kung wala kang grasya kay speaker, wala kang, yari ka talaga, di ba? But
Hindi ka mapapansin.
hindi talaga malulunod ka, di ba? But hindi naman palengke ang Senado. It's a very small body, literally and figuratively. So, some of us are wondering, do you really need to be majority and do you really need the chairmanship? So, what is the state of play there, Jean?
Yung kay Senator Risa, no, talagang napaka-outstanding ng ginawa niya. Pero yung, alam mo ba yung Senate Committee on Women and Family Relations?
Right.
Which was the committee, no, that investigated yung kay Kibulo, yung kay Alice Go. Ano yan kumbaga that's considered a minor committee.
Right.
Particularly walang lalaking gustong mag-chair nun. Diba? So iilan na lang kayo. I remember, I think the only guy who chaired that at one point was Raul Rocco. Kasi naman ako siya, honorary woman, no?
Right.
Pero other than that, si Senator Risa lang ang naging popular or nagkaroon ng magandang agenda at nagkaroon ng media mileage yung Committee on Women and Family Relations.
Right.
So iba yung sa kanya, no? But then totoo yun, pag wala ka sa majority, there is a very big chance that your pet bill will not move because it's up to the chair of the committee, for instance, to calendar it for hearings.
Right.
No? Para lang, gumalaw. And then, pagtapos na yung hearings, nasa majority floor leader naman para i-calendar yan for plenary deliberations, no? Unless meron kang linya sa Malacanang na gagawing certified as urgent, then dun bibilis, no? Yung pag and there have been studies na the average noon pa to sa reproductive health law yata ito ginawa. Parang 11 years para makapagpasa ka ng batas. So, matagal talaga. It might even outlive your term. Yung mga ganon. So, that's something that is usually the reason why people want to be in the majority. Oo. So, yun yung, or senators would want to be in the majority. But then it's also true, no? Kung articulate ka, then what you can do is to react to issues, no? Especially national issues. Hindi yung, may mga issues naman kasi na of national significance, but are not really very sexy. Like noon, yung health committee was not very sexy. Ngayon, because of the Malasakit Center.
Because of Bongo, basically. Yeah.
And the pandemic, Bongo.
Yeah,
so, naging sexy committee siya. So, yun yung kalakalan.
And Risa also made the Committee on Women Affairs a very, important committee, right? It's also what you do with what you got, right? With the cards you were dealt with. No, thank you very much for that, Professor Jim Frank, for clarifying that. So, what you're saying is that dumami yung committees, so even if you're not part of majority, you will have a committee. But nevertheless, being in the majority assures you of not only getting the best possible or preferred committees, but also chairmanship of these committees. And that consequently raises also yung probability that you may get your preferred bill or legislation passed hopefully hindi 11 years because that means at least 2 terms. No? Maybe a little bit faster, shorter. Maybe we want to look at newer political science studies in terms of the speed, no, of legislation.
Yeah,
Is it
oo.
improving? Is it not improving? With the exception, of course, of the pandemic days when emergency naman yung situation. Now, the next thing I want to ask here is, okay, if you join the majority, what are the mechanics there? Okay, to just spell it out. We had Justice Carpio on this show the other day, and also our resident. So we had the legal luminary Justice Carpio and then illegal luminary si Ronald Llamas. Both of them, their question is the same. What's the quid pro quo? Is it because Chiz loves you? Okay ka na dyan? Kung maganda rin ang kilay mo? Or you went together to your Paris Fashion Week? Or you're both into Milan? Like, how does this work? Like, sasali ka lang ba sa majority dahil lang trip ka lang ni Bossing? Or there's an understanding that we're gonna be on the same page, not 100%, but maybe 90% of the time. I just want to understand ano yung kalakaran dyan sa Senado. Again, I understand in the Congress, it's quite, you follow the leader, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no way you're gonna be majority and then like, magmamaganda ka. So we had, for instance, Geraldine Roman, Congressman Roman on this show, right? And she explained to us bakit she voted very controversial in certain issues. Sabi niya, basically, yung time na yan, yari ka ng speaker. Not to mention, yari ka rin ni Digong, baka lalagay ka pa sa narco list, di ba? So again, yun yung kalakaran sa nung panahon na yan, and some would say in the lower house, where the speaker is really predominant, hegemonic almost. How does it work in the Senate? How do you join the majority, and what comes with the perks, kumbaga?
Well, if you're with the majority, you can ask for additional budget. Yeah, no, travel budget, additional staff support, no, yung mga ganun. And also, with regard to the case of Chiz, I'm pretty sure that whatever discussions each senator has made with Chiz, and in the run-up to supporting him, meron dun yung impeachment, no?
Sure.
And I'm sure Chiz really just wanted to be Senate President. So, siguro meron siyang sinasabi na parang, I mean, it's up to you, whatever your vote will be, but then, I want to be Senate President again, and if you want me to be Senate President, then I can give you this committee. No? Pero tama ka, hindi pwedeng walang quid pro quo. At the end of the day, I think Chiz knows na lahat naman ng boto na yan depende how the trial will play out.
Right. Okay. Now, going back to that question, so basically what you're saying is that, yun nga, we both love Fashion Week. Just, you still want me to be the creative director. No, but kidding aside, my understanding kasi is the numbers-wise, she's already had the 13 eh. Kasi you had the two Tulfo brothers, you had the DDS 7, I think, if I'm not missing, I think even Lauren at some point was open. So there's an argument that he may have had already the numbers. So basically, Bam and Kiko were not the clincher for him. But I'm amenable to the argument that if you're Chiz, you want to play safe, and maybe Bam and Kiko were, at the end of the day, the safety valve, no? Or medyo may cushion, diba? So in that sense, it works for both sides. Now, we will talk about the impeachment soon, but what I want to understand, Jean, is it's not like impeachment lang yung issue sa Senate, right? There are going to be a lot of legislations. There's going to be a lot of hearings that will reflect not only, so this is the theory of power blocks, no? So with every power block, there's a hegemonic block within the power block, right? My understanding is that, yes, Chiz Escudero is the Senate President. We can have a long conversation about how effective or ineffective he has been. But my understanding also is that he's very much beholden to the DDS 7. And with Marcoleta most likely getting the Blue Ribbon Committee and and all of that, I mean, the sense I'm getting here is that ang laki nung say nung DDS 7 within the majority block. So in that sense, even if for Chiz, this is about, pare, love tayo dyan, di ba? Don't you think he can come under pressure by the DDS 7 to say, oy, baka naman gusto mo sabihin yung mga iba dyan na, to come on board on other issues, aside from the impeachment issue, which we'll discuss shortly. Again, I'm just trying to make sense out of what is the reality of the mechanics of Senate politics? Because I think there's a lot of fantastical or presumptuous theories being made about ano yung kalakaran dyan sa Senado.
Mm. Well, I guess, yeah, tama ka. Yung hegemonic bloc ng pro-Duterte senators is there. But then, eh, precisely baka yun yung point that Chiz actually argued, no? In front of the senators who are not DDS, na I'm not gonna be, I mean, impeachment is just one issue. So I don't care what your issue will be, but on the impeachment process. But then, other than that, if you want to be a member of my committee, if you want to be majority, then join me. And I guess for the DDS 7, sa kanila, existential issue yung impeachment eh. So
Right.
that's probably the only thing they have in mind right now.
And logically, they would put pressure on Chiz to move in a certain direction, right?
Yeah, but I guess at the end of the day, it's difficult for them for Chiz to really categorically say that I'm gonna vote for this or that, mainly because my sense is that it will really depend on the public pulse,
Yeah.
the pressure, and how the trial will play out. Expect surprises. In case there is a trial.
Yeah, which is like interesting, right? Like with Chiz, we're not even sure if he's determined to get the trial going. But for me,
Yeah.
it's not like it's the trial alone lang, no? So we had Senator Trillanes also on this show on multiple occasions who explained that from their own experience of previous impeachment, it's not just the trial, but also the mechanics of the trial. Pag-usapan yan.
The rules.
The rules, exactly. So, para sa akin, okay, go ka sa trial. Senator Raffy Tulfo also said, we have to go with the trial, the Tulfo brothers, everyone's... But for me, it's not only the trial per se, it's how the trial is going to be effectuated,
exactly.
right? Case in point, yung money trail, right? Are they gonna allow subpoenaing of certain evidence that could really prove as decisive, diba? If not, basically the deus ex machina. So, for me, again, in theory, I'm not saying that's gonna happen. In theory, you can see a situation whereby Chiz being Chiz, diba? One kilay to the right, one kilay to the left. He can split the difference, right? He could say, okay, eto na lang, let's have it at trial, but maybe we can massage a little bit. So, you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm just trying to be realistic about here that if you're Chiz, I mean, this is just game theory, right? The rational option for you is not to be total in one side, but to a little bit lean, and then, kind of split the difference, right? The reason I say that is because I see that in international relations, which is something I always focus on. In negotiation between the states, you always split the difference, right? There's a compromise, but the compromise is asymmetrical. So I'm also trying to understand, even on the trial issue, isn't it para masyadong low yung bar kung sabihin mo, hindi, pwede na, I mean, magta-trial naman siguro sila or pro-trial naman sila. So okay na yan, that's it. Wala na, they're gonna be, like, I want to understand, is it possible to be independent within the majority bloc? Like, can you be a minority within majority?
That's a good question, no? It's difficult unless like for instance in the case of Senator Bam and Senator Kiko, they just wanted to really chair the committee, and they will face being in the majority on a per issue basis. You get what I mean? Baka ganun yung position nila, no? I understand that there have been people who in sectors that are not happy with their decision. Wala pa naman, sabi nila sa 28 pa, but there are already people or netizens posting na they're not happy. And these are valid, considering that some people campaign for them or even voted for them, asked their families to vote for them. But then at the end of the day, ang reality rin is that even during the campaign, if during the campaign you said, I will have this policy, I will approve this policy, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin yun on your own dahil hindi ka naman executive eh. you need to
Right.
play politics, good politics, so to speak, to be able to shepherd the approval of your pet bills.
Right. Now, everyone talks about, public pressure is important dun sa issue ng impeachment, trial, etc., which we'll discuss very shortly. But my point is, public pressure also important if some people want to join the majority or not. Because you can clearly see, I mean, let's be
Yeah,
honest,
yeah,
Kiko, I don't know about Bam, but Kiko keeps on posting right and left, right? I think he is concerned about potentially alienating certain quarters
yeah.
or parts of his base. So at least I appreciate the effort by Senator Kiko to keep on reassuring people. So clearly, hindi pwede yung maghintay lang tayo. You make things happen, right? So I think it's very
Yeah.
important na proactive ang tao and they raise their concerns. Again, we're not here to cancel anyone. I don't think that helps
Yeah, yeah.
anyone. Ilan na nga lang yung
Tama.
matino tapos ika-cancel mo pa.
Tama ka,
So hindi
tama,
ito
tama.
cancel culture. This is really about making sure lang, medyo tapatan naman tayo dito, di ba? Magkakaalaman tayo. Because I want to go back to the DDS7 idea because, the idea always in Senate is 24 republics, each have their own mind, etc.
Yeah, exactly.
But the DDS have really changed the game, right? Because they cohere, napaka-cohesive nila. I'm not saying that they're perfectly, like on the same, singing to the same tune. We know there's a bongo Sara dynamic. I was just in front of the detention center of Digong in March in Hague, and I was asking people, bakit wala sila bongo or others? And may nagsabi, ayaw kasi ni, di ba? Like, I'm very aware, right? More than aware, right? So we're not saying na 100% everything is fine and dandy within the House of Duterte. But the reality is that napaka-cohesive nila. Like,
Yeah.
you have Batorni, you have Boisili, you have Mr. Malasakit, like bam, 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 bam. Like, it's very consistent yung line nila and it puts pressure. And the next thing you know, yung mga Duterte light ay biglang pumapasok. Kunyari, pakinggan natin si Bato, baka palitan niya yung isip niya, di ba? Ito yung ating legal luminary na si Cayetano, for instance, right? So, what I'm saying is that, isn't the lesson from the DDS7, which actually was just DDS3 before it became really a solidified 7, especially with Marcoleta coming in, Cayetano there, Aimee there, and then it could be actually DDS even 8 kasi you have two Villiers, right? So, my point there is, hindi ba ang lesson there is you have to actually cohere so that you can have more effect rather than you have to split yourself? Kasi, again, this is a very valid point na ni-raise ni Ma'am Leni. Again, some people debate now, when Ma'am Leni said that thing on July 11 on the podcast, was she directly referring to it? I'm just having a hard time not seeing it referring to it. But anyway, I can see the argument that konti na nga lang tayo, and then kung lahat pa tayo minority at wala tayong gagawin, wala tayong matinong chairmanship, wala tayong ma-accomplish, yari na tayo, talagang maging marginalized tayo. I can see that point. But I can also see the point that, okay, while that argument may make sense from a more short-term tactical point of view, can't it come at the expense of a much more long-term pragmatic or strategic cost, which is you're spreading thin, you're already very limited resources, right? You only have 3 really solid senators. And some would say, again, correct me if I'm wrong, some would say, kung sana nag-cohere yung tatlo na yan, if they were cohesive and solid together and maingay sila on issues and all, you could imagine Sherwin Gatchalian could have been with them. You could imagine the Macho Boys bloc, once they realize they cannot be the Senate president, may eventually defect to them. You can also imagine that the Tulfo brothers may also have second thoughts, right? Chiz Batay. Like, in theory, Risa Ontiveros becoming the minority leader, Senate minority leader, also wouldn't have been impossible if there was that kind of cohesion and all. Again, I can be criticized. Richard, armchair ka lang. But that's why I'm asking people like you who are, yes, armchair too, but nevertheless serve in the Senate. Is that a crazy line of argument, or Mickey Mouse pa yan? Is that a Disneyland way of looking at it?
No, that's a valid argument, no? But then, as we speak, we still have how many days? 9 days? You know how it operates, no? May resolution that goes
No, please
around.
explain. Yeah, please explain for the audience
There's a
kasi people are not
resolution that
familiar.
goes around supporting a specific
Senate
Senate
President.
President and then magsasign. Yung iba, titingnan, nag-sign na ba si ganito? Pag
Right.
nag-sign na, and of course, within the process, may tawagan, I'm sure ngayon may mga Viber group chats and everything. So, everything is very fluid, where even as we speak, and even as we see a lot of pronouncements, no? On social media, sigurado na ba to, ganito, ganyan, minority, no? And the mere fact that the people who voted for BAM, or the progressive senators, are already being hindi naman canceled but being questioned by their supporters, ang tingin ko, it's, they're listening. Especially nga, sabi mo, si Senator Kiko, no? Kasi nag-issue siya ng statement just kahapon po, this morning, about the
Yeah.
impeachment. So, in effect, what he is saying is that si, solid pa rin ako dun sa impeachment.
Right. Which is why I ask, yun lang ba dapat ang bar natin? Like, I mean, let's imagine, you're part of majority, Mark Oleta is doing something fantastical with this Blue Ribbon Committee. And then your majority, can you go on and criticize the DDS7 or some member of them? Is that okay if you're part of the majority? Or isn't there an understanding na baka gusto mo medyo bumait kay Mark Oleta, kay kung ano-anong ginagawa? Do you get what I'm saying? I'm just being realistic here.
Yeah.
Right? Because feeling ko kung trial lang yung basihan, napakababang bar yan. Because 6 years to eh. It's a mahabang runway yan. The trial issue is just the next 2 months probably, or 3 months, if ever it even happens, right? But for me, there's so many other issues na pwede maging problematic in the coming months and years, kung saan, kung ano-anong gagawin ni Batorni, ni Mark Oleta, ni ganito, ganyan. But your majority, so the understanding is, mag-iingay ka ba, di ba? I mean, I'm not sure they can say things the way that a minority member like Risa would do if she feels some of her colleagues are out of line.
Tama ka. Ako, I'm
Yes, si Prof. Jean Franco yung
thinking
kasama.
that they probably know that anyway. Fragile naman ang Senate presidency. Then who knows? After ilang months, iba na naman ang Senate president. You know what I mean? I just wanted to show that I'm, from day one, I'm gonna work. So I have this chairpersonship. And anyway, the Senate is treated as a Senate Republic, as a separate republic. Pag may ayaw ako, then I'll show it. And there are other ways to show non-support. Pwede namang hindi ka maging ganun ka-vocal. Pwedeng, I don't know, tanggihan mo na maging member ng committee mo or something like
Right.
that, no? So, these are things that the progressive bloc probably knows. But yeah, I perfectly understand your point, no? That they're compromising their position should they say something about a member of the majority that whose actions may not be acceptable to them. They're going to be in a very difficult position.
Yeah, you have to go along, right? I mean, there was ba't pa kayo in the same team, right? If you're gonna call out some of these DDS7 or some of their actions, etc. Because, let's be honest, maging brutal itong Senate na to. Kasi existential yan, di ba? I expect the DDS7, particularly DDS4, to go all in, di ba? And talagang, mamaya kung ano-ano yung sapina nila, kung ano ang gagawin nila, away-away here and there. So, I'm just laying out kumbaga, ito yung maging lay of the land, no? Let's scenario building tayo. But, I also like your point, kasi, I also had that in mind. What if papasok tayo with Chiz until the end of the Milan Fashion Week and then we coup him out? And then bringing, I don't know, Zubiri or... No, I'm kidding. Si Zubiri kasi hindi pa rin niya natanggap. Yata natanggal siya kaya bitter siya. Because I would have expected him to be in DDS7 eh. But I think because sila rin yung nagtanggal sa kanya, he chose to be with Macho Boys. So you're right. It's a very fluid and a very fragile alignment inside, no? So, okay, given that, what is the best way for these three progressives, Bam, Kiko, and Risa, to still show a united front, no matter what kind of majority-minority divisions they're gonna join?
Well, I guess they should be consistent with their brand, no? And it concretely means, no, in terms of their legislative activities and pronouncements.
Jin, now let's talk about Sara Duterte. Okay, so from your experience of working in the Senate before you became a political scientist and academic, How do you assess yung performance ni Chiz Escudero over the past 6 months or so in terms of handling this issue? I mean, a lot of us can see what's going on here. The guy is just trying to survive and keep his head
Yeah.
above the water, right? But having said that, it's not like this is the first time things like this are happening. We had impeachments in the past. We had Pepe Pimentel at some point even resigning from his Senate presidency in protest of certain actions. Okay, so compared to, hindi naman tayo nag-age reveal or anything like that. I'm just saying, compared to the time that you worked before, are you seeing a qualitative shift? Or you're just seeing a variation on the theme?
No, there is a marked qualitative shift, no? Nawala na yung statesmanship na meron, no, nung araw, at least na dati kasi sabi yung mga empleyado nga would really go to the plenary just to listen to
Right.
debates. Ngayon kasi may piped in na ngayon pinapatay na nila because they don't want to listen anymore, no, kasi I still have friends there, no, so bumaba. And before kasi, even if there were artistas, celebrity politicians, they were incentivized to
To level
perform.
up,
Why?
yeah,
Kasi andun pa rin yung mga Neptali Gonzalez, o at least si Drilon, nung mga,
Right.
no, latter years, no? Pero ngayon kasi, parang, I mean, why will I be incentivized to do well?
Bakit ako mag-Ingles? Hindi naman tayo Amerikano. I mean, yun na yung level ngayon, di ba? Ba't ba ako mag-Ingles? Bakit Amerikano ba tayo? Parang siya pa yung galit, di ba? Oh.
Di ba? Yung ganon. So, talagang nakakabahala. I'm not being elitist. Di ba? I'm pretty sure.
You're being meritocratic. Iba yung meritocratic.
Magaling ka mag-English, magaling ka rin mag-Tagalog, no? So, hindi porket hindi nag-i-English, hindi na matalino, no? At of course, pag senator ka, hindi naman pwedeng alam mo lahat. Kaya nga,
Correct.
there was one, di ba, na parang sinasabi, si Risa Ontiveros daw was being coached by her staff. That's very normal. That's very normal. Kasi hindi naman alam ng senator lahat ng issue.
Right.
Ang hindi normal, yung kapwa mo senador, didiktahan ka, nakitang-kita ng camera. That's really abnormal. I have never seen that.
Yung ba yung Boy Dila or yung ba yung...
I have never seen that.
Yeah.
No? Ang meron nung araw, pero discreetly to, hindi pinapakita.
Yeah.
Halimbawa, medyo hindi magaling na senador, ang gagawin mo, may interpellation. Hindi ko na, wala, na to, blind item.
Wala na. Talagang blind item tayo
May
ngayon.
blind item
Mahirap
sa
na.
Sa ni Richard.
Shout out kay OG Diaz.
Halimbawa, merong bill, ang gagawin niya, merong script na natanong, na ibibigay sa So, alam ko na tatanungin mo to.
Right.
So, para magmukha akong magaling. So, may ganong dynamics. Pero walang nakakaalam yan. 'Di ba? Pero ngayon kasi, yung bumubulong na, that's just something that
Wait. Jin, you're saying there was a script para maging mukhang magaling? Bakit ganun ang lumabas?
I know. Oo.
Naalala ko yung Rodrigo Duterte II, yung naging vice mayor ngayon sa Davao, yung binigyan niya nga ng script. Sa script, kasama pa, kailangan ka mag-hammer, kailangan, mali pa rin. Tapos pupunta na naman mag-coach. Hindi, ito, lalagay mo na ganyan. So, I'm just saying, even having a script is not an assurance. You'll get it right.
Mahirap din kung ang script mo galing sa chat GPT. Kasi baka may nakalagay ba, I can tailor.
Yeah.
Fit this to your...
Correct.
Please add more context,
Tapos
diba?
biglang wag lang grok kasi medyo racist yung grok eh. Yung grok is the one on Twitter na version.
Yeah.
Medyo neo-Nazi na siya minsan, but going back to this, I think what we also did not see in the past, although I have a critic of that point of we used to be this golden era, then now trouble in paradise. I'll go back to that very shortly, no? But going back to etong sinasabi mo yung nagko-coach. For me, what was weird, eto naman, blind item ulit yan, pero medyo magaling magboxing yung isa. Maraming magaling magboxing. Nakita natin, di ba, nung si Cayetano at Zubiri, muntik nagsuntukan na, di ba? Si Arnis versus Caldero. But going back to this, meron daw sinasabi sa Senate, parang, pag may nagsispeech sa harap, kunwari si Drilon, alam ng tao anong term yan, biglang anong sinasabi? Tapos huwag kang makulit, nakikinig din ako. Alam mo yung mga gano'n, yung mga row 4, yung mga sa dulo, para sila, hindi nila, huwag kang magulo, nakikinig, hindi ko rin gets eh. Ano sinasabi yung ganon, di ba? So, I think that really told me, medyo may problema na tayo, mapunta na tayo sa exciting part. But Jean, I want to go back to that very argument na, okay, we had, parang we had our patrician moment, the Roman Republic moment. I hear all of these nostalgic stories na nag-rush ang tao from Katipunan and Ateneo para abutan yung debate, ganito, ganyan. Okay, pero ilan kayo sa population ng Pilipinas? In fact, I would say, I remember when I was watching them, because I grew up watching BBC Heart Talk. I grew up watching CNN. 7, 8 years old pa lang ako, I was watching those things. I'll tell you what, I love those programs, and maybe that's why I'm where I am today. But when I used to watch the Senate debates, I'll be honest, parang, hindi naman pretentious, pero parang, you hear Latin terms, you hear legalist terms, you know, even I would say, hindi naman ako illiterate. As I said, you know, like, I would love watching BBC Heart Talk or even reading The Economist na very conjectural na British. Pero minsan hindi ko maintindihan din, parang masyadong highfalutin na bombastic minsan. No offense again, I just felt medyo malayo dun sa, you know, the median level of discursive interaction. So, basically, ang feeling ko is, and this is the expression like I was just reading about history of a constitutional revolution in the country, and someone said, yeah, our constitutional revolution was like buying a furniture without having the house. Meaning, ang ganda ng revolution mo and all, pero wala kang, you know, you don't have the infrastructure, the foundation. Anong relevance dito? You have all of these senators saying all of these wonderful, beautiful things, but your education system, your media, right, your information landscape, your thought leaders are not really translating it para malapit sa puso ng tao. In fact, we had also Senator De Lima on this show, and she said, parang ibang tao hindi nga nila alam or appreciate ano ba yung trabaho ng senador. Hindi trabaho ng senador na sunod-sunuran sa presidente or ano lang, mangingay lang. You know, they have to be fiscalizer, they have to be legislators. So, a part of me feels baka we're too romanticizing also that era, or there was a rot at the heart of the apple, and that's why we are in the situation right now. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm slightly more critical of this nostalgic sense of discourse. If it was so good, why did we end up here?
Tama ka, Richard. You know why? That's precisely one of the reasons why dumami ang celebrity politicians.
Right, kasi relatable.
Kasi the public wanted someone refreshing, someone whose words will resonate with them. And
relatable.
And in the literature of the rise of celebrity politicians, laging sinasabi yan, yung maraming mga very technocratic yung language, no? And in the case of the Senate, dahil there was a time, ang dami-dami. Parang ang qualification to be a senator, maging, maging abogado ka, no? Yung old Congress nga, meron pang nag-i-Espanyol, eh.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Archives, 1960s, may
baka
Espanyol
Latin pa nga,
debate.
nag-Latin debates, yeah.
Oo. So, yun yung naging problema. Pero tama ka, no? Even when dapat speech, di ba? Ano pa rin, very, very technocratic. Tama, isa yan sa dapat magbago para mas maka-relate sa mga tao.
Yeah, I mean, this goes back to the Habermasian theory of discursive competence, etc. Parang, ako, kung magaling ka talaga, matalino ka talaga, you can actually translate very complex ideas into something that's relatable. I don't know if people have bothered to read the US Constitution. Sobrang liit, sobrang daling intindihin. Have you bothered to listen to, let's say Barack Obama, right? He's a very smart guy. He can do constitutional law lecture, but look at how he talks, diba? Sobrang ang dali niyang intindihin. So parang minsan sabi ko, parang ang weird na mas nadaling intindihin yung mga katulad ni Obama kasi mga sarili natin, mga ibang politiko. So hindi ko sinasabi na trying hard. I'm just saying na medyo malayo masyado. And to be honest, this is not unique to us. So another country that has gone under the same kind of transformation is India and also Turkey. So if you look at India, for instance, for a long time, yung Congress Party, diba, ito yung Nehru Gandhi family. Elite, Anglophile, Oxbridge graduates, if you look at their debates, amazing and all. Pero yung mga karamihan ng mga Indians hindi makarelate. And eventually, they went for someone like Modi, na very much like Digong, di ba? Actually, mas magaling mag-English pa nga si Digong eh. Someone very relatable and all. Si Turkey naman, very interesting because in Turkey, for a long time, their political elite were the so-called white Turks. Ito yung mga Turks na European ang dating. Some of them look European, etc. projecting. And then someone like Erdogan comes in and says, hindi, Turk tayo, Muslim tayo, ganito tayo, masa tayo. And that suddenly made him very relatable and all of that. So we're seeing that in a lot of, let's say, fragile or distressed third wave democracies, no? Or na kung saan talagang once you have this kind of disconnect, it's open for populist takeover. So,
exactly.
we're not unique in that sense. Kaya nga sabi ko, so what is the way forward? So, for instance, I remember discussion I had with Bam last year. Sabi ko, tignan mo yung kaso ni Rahul Gandhi. So Rahul Gandhi is yung latest member ng Congress Party from the Nehru family and all. Half Italian, 10 times more Konya than me. Used to drive Ferraris with Italian girlfriends in front of Italian embassy. So yari siya ni Modi. Kasi si Modi parang digong eh. Di ba? Parang ginagawa niya kay Maros. Pangatlong ihimo na yan. Yung mga ganun yung parang inasar-asar lang niya. So what did the guy do? He transformed. Ang ginawa niya, nag-listening tour siya, pumunta siya sa mga kung saan-saan sa India, di ba? Kumain-kain siya ng kaya na. Do you know what I'm saying? Naglagay siya ng beard. He completely transformed. And then he became relatable. Di ba? And then, eto pa, I watched this guy before. So I think he's a graduate of Harvard and I think Cambridge. So his accent is different now. Dati yung English niya, yung mas neutral. Ngayon yung English niya, parang mga Indians, yung English niya. Sabi ko, pati yan pinalitan niya eh. Pati yung accent niya, yung pananalitan niya. So you can say that's Machiavellian, that's political. But for me, nagets niya, you have to be relatable. So I think we have models around the world whereby, hindi tayo relatable eh. Hindi tayo hindi tayo abot eh. So adjust tayo. So that's where I'm coming from in terms of my critique of that Senate of the Golden Era thing.
Yeah, I think it also has to do with dahil post-colonial legacy, we're not comfortable with the language. It's not
Sure.
our first language, di ba? Pwede rin yun.
Sure.
Tapos secondly, alam mo, importante talaga yung imaging. Sabi nga, ang politics is just perception, di ba? Especially in the age of social media.
Right.
Where even the mundane, no? Can be, kasi 24/7 ng news cycle di ba?
Right.
Even the mundane can be posted online, no? Si Robin Padilla, nag-ano siya, no? Nung bigote niya, nagupit siya ng bigote niya. Alam nyo, nung time ko, meron ding senador na nagugupit, nagdadala ng nail cutter. Pero wala pang social media noon eh. So walang magpipicture.
Sayang, wala siyang content.
Oo, pero yung anak niya, laging sinasabihan yung aide niya na pakitanggal yung nail cutter pagka pupunta na ng session. Yung pag pupunta na yung tatay ko dyan sa session hall, confiscate para wag makita. Pero all the more now, di ba? So yun eh. Pero ang problema niya, may sumasagot dito na dati ng taga-senado.
Gusto ko magtanong meron din drip dati? Meron drip? Nagdi-drip ng vitamins ng ano?
Ay, grabe yun. So, meron din daw sumasagot dito, meron din daw nagtsatsyane. So, gano'n, Pero, ang nakakatakot din, baka sumikat pa, di ba?
Yun nga eh, nag-hindi rin kasi siya eh. Ito ang Senado, ito ang aking
Oo, may gumawa ng ganyan kay Bolsonaro na study, no?
Yeah.
Sabi niya, the more na, and I also applied it to Duterte, the more na parang binabastos mo kasi yung elements of power or symbolisms of power, yung presidential, yung rostrum, or yung Senate hearing, the more na nai-endear yung tao, dahil parang, pinapapasok, parang binabastos mo sa amin yung isang space na hindi kami makapasok.
Right.
Diba?
Yung transgressive, yeah.
Yun ang lang. So, kasi dati, sabi natin, di ba, Senate, dapat ganito.
Right.
The Diokno era, ganyan, Pero baka tapos na rin yung era talaga na yun eh.
Right.
Hindi talaga mababalik.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being respectable and statesman-like. Ako naman, for me, my ideal statesman is someone who can switch, who can be very respectable when he needs to be, and who can be very relatable. I mean, so one of the quotes I love about Napoleon Bonaparte, I'm not saying I endorse his politics, is that, sabi niya, my mind is like a set of drawers, and I'll take out whichever drawer fits the moment. So pagkasama niya yung mga elite na Parisian, he will talk about Voltaire, he will talk about philosophy. Pero kung kasama niya yung mga sundalo, parang boy canto, di ba? So leadership, I think the true leadership is that ability to communicate at multiple levels. So for me, even with the information age, in fact, that's why we have a vlog and podcast like this. you have to stratify your communication strategy and relatable. I think Rafi Tulfo is a very interesting case, right? Kasi,
Exactly.
my goodness, there are pages, Jean, that have millions of views. All they do is they just edit Rafi Tulfo berating yung mga officials sa mga hearings sa Senado. It's a whole cottage industry. Just that. So I was telling to my American friends, sabi niya, can you imagine C-SPAN, yun yung Congress TV nila. Imagine that goes viral. Sabi, how is that? I said, in the Philippines, that's what happens. Like, they get the highlights of that, congressman or senator like berating someone, and it becomes content. You know, so I think
They
Rafi,
like it.
and people
They
love
like
it. They feel empowered. Just like you said, oo nga, itong mga opisyalis hindi sumasagot sa amin. I watched one TikTok of Rafi Tulfo. It was very interesting. So it was para siyang emergency call dun sa mga parents sa parang DepEd yan or something. So sabi niya, oh, ito ba emergency call? O, tawagan natin. Biglang tinawagan. Nung tinawagan, sumagot yung guy. And sabi nung guy, ay hindi, tumawag ka sa ibang number naman. Biglang nagets niya si Rafi pala yung tumawag. Ay, sir, inaayos pa namin yung kabila, ha? Pero like, oh my God, napaya sila. Tapos sabi nila, pinasa mo ako, tawagin ko nga yung isa. Tapos nung tumawag niya, wala naman sumasagot. So sabi niya, oh, wala pa lang sumasagot eh. Palakpakan yung mga, you get what I'm saying? Like, you know, we can bash the Tulfos and we say they're populist or demagogic, ganun. But they're showing also, like, maybe gusto ng tao to see that kind of relatable, visceral kind of governance accountability.
Yeah. Nako, kaya nga watch out sa kung matuloy yung impeachment trial, may mga superstars dyan na lalabas.
Right.
May mga superstars. Meron din makakancel, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, knowing Philippine politics, I mean, there's always a new fashion week, new season. But for me, just seeing Robin Hood Padilla in the robe, you know, like Bato in the robe, I think that's like, blockbuster na yan. May kalaban na ang Superman. Jin, I know we extended a little bit too much kasi natuwa tayo sa mga discussion natin about our amazing, wonderful senators. Now, just to talk about this impeachment issue, what is important, what should people do, and what should people watch out for, and what are your general expectations? Obviously, prepare for surprises, but what are your general expectations?
Sa akin, the impeachment trial must really happen. Mahirap i-explain sa tao pag hindi nangyari yun. And whatever the verdict
yung
will
fan
be,
pwede itapat sa akin ng init.
harapin natin. Kasi as a student
Init.
and
Yung
teacher
fan tapat
of
mo sa paa
politics,
ko.
diba? Na-witness ko rin yung 2000
Pababa mo.
To 2001, yung kay ERAP, no?
Right.
Nag-crumble yung institution nagkaroon ng people power. So ngayon dapat matuloy. And
That's it. Next,
dapat
thank you.
harapin talaga yung accountability and because that's part of democracy. Dito natin makikita kung are we slowly consolidating our democracy or not. That's one. Second, yung pressure from civil society groups, very important. For instance, yung Tindig Pilipinas and all the groups associated with it just concluded what you call this, a press conference days ago, and they're upping up the pressure because of na malapit na yung SONA. So, and hindi dapat tigilan, no? Hindi dapat tigilan. Plus, I think that impeachment trial should happen within the next few months before
Right.
2025 ends. Kasi may reason na naman sila. Kasi ngayon, yung mga bills are going to be just read on the floor and then hearings pa lang. So wala pa masyadong makakalendar na urgent sa floor
Right.
ng Senate. So they will have more time. There will be no reason for them to say, ano na kami, press for time, ganito, ganyan. So
Pa-off yung
sana
TV.
mangyari yun. It will be
Pa-off
a
yung TV.
very interesting chapter in our history.
Right. On that amazing note, isa pang last singit natin yan. Jin, moving forward, how do you see the pink movement? Obviously, back in 2022, a lot of us reacted in different platforms to the. I mean, it was really historic. It was really amazing. I never saw so many people in the streets in the Philippines. I was in the Hong Kong protests. I have been in different parts of the world where I saw tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. But to see that happening in our own country and multiple times and voluntarily based, diba? Hindi naman nahakot mga yan. That was really amazing. But many people felt na walang follow through in terms of translating those spontaneous explosion of enthusiasm into something that goes beyond the election cycle, especially after nanalo yung unity team. Now, 2025 natapos na. We had some good surprises. Marami mga artista natalo. Ito yung mga artista. I have nothing against artista, but ito yung mga artista who are treating Senate as a retirement, home. It doesn't work that way. But more importantly, you had tremendously successful, campaign for Akbayan, for BAM, for Kiko, etc. Really, all over the place success, despite the limitation of that. So, in theory, they could be a third force, right? But nevertheless, there are concerns saan tayo papunta, because it looks like the Risa understanding of where we should go is not necessarily the same or exactly as what probably BAM or Leni understand it to be. I'm not saying magkalaban sila. I think within every party or movement, there are going to be different tendencies, right? But my sense is Risa is different from Leni. Risa is different definitely from BAM, right? And Kiko is probably somewhere in the middle, right? How do you see that those tendencies converging, or how could they converge to become a major force come 2028? Because I want this discussion to set the tone, hopefully, for our future discussions and interventions, because hindi naman to natin ma-cover lahat ngayon, but I just want people to have a sense of where you see things going, because back in 2022 you were one of the more prominent analysts who kept on focusing on is essentially the pink magic. The pink magic.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. That's a very good question. I think, I don't know if they've done it, if they've collectively assessed the results of the 2025 elections. They have to, Bam Aquino won the Lucena
LLC
Lucena
corridor, yeah.
and that's phenomenal. So they have to, use evidence-based, what do you call this, analysis, so that they can put more science into projecting what they need to strategize for come 2028. And the way to start it, when to start it, it has to be now. That's one. And then, if they have that kind of an assessment, they will need to really put more strategies and sort of parang strat planning. Dapat meron sila ganun, so that everyone is on the same page. No? So I think that's very important.
Yeah, we don't have exit polls, right? So that complicates the post-mortem. Unlike 2016 when SWS and TV5 had it, I was reassured by TV5 that there will be one in 2028. But having said that, I think heuristically and instinctively, if not through proxy indicators like pre-election surveys, it looks like the Gen Z and the youth vote not only were the majority bloc this time, but they have also introduced some, dynamic, right, into the election. What is, again, obviously as political scientists, we cannot say anything definitively unless we see the numbers in detail. But what is our sense, let's just say, of the youth vote and how it should be harnessed to move in a certain direction? Because just to go back into where we started, the reason why I'm very concerned about the BAM Kiko optics, at least, is baka ma-alienate yung mga kabataan na sabi na ito na nga ito na yung chance natin para bagong politika, tapos pragmatic na naman tayo, practical na naman tayo. We have been hearing that for a long time already.
Totoo. The COMELEC projects that in 2028, 65% of the electorate will be from Gen Z and millennials, no? I think the order of the day is to know their concerns,
right,
their desires, their dreams, and to sort of align whatever agenda this progressive bloc will be having within the next 3 years, with what the young people want. And it's not difficult to do that. Meron tayong young adult fertility studies, meron tayong National Demographic Health Survey. If you really want to put science into, I wish that there are people who can do that, no? And that's something to look forward to. Lots of surveys, pwede kang mag-mine ng surveys from SWS and all, and Pulse Asia and other reputable survey organizations. Sana may gumawang ganun. In other countries, kasi di ba may think tanks yung mga parties, that's what they should do. I don't know if that's something that the progressive bloc is doing. Kasi clearly, Richard, may opening.
Exactly. My historic juncture. My historic juncture. No, I absolutely agree with it. And I think that's one of the projects I want to focus on in the coming years or so, is do focus group discussions, do analytics, go around the country. We have a couple of new things we're trying to put together with the other academics and experts. Hopefully, we can also have more of you also with us, Jin, because yung parang Project 2028 ang tawag ko dyan, right? We have to understand what is the historical juncture, what are the opportunities, and some would say how to make sure Duterte's don't come back. But I don't want to make it too political. First of all, intindihin natin, ako, to be honest, one reason I was not totally surprised with the election results and many other surveys that we're seeing right now showing is because I saw consumer sentiment surveys by one very big company which has access to tens of millions of consumers. Hindi ko na sabihin anong company yan. So they did a briefing for me, and we look at the numbers. And interestingly, for instance, their numbers showed that among the Gen Zs and millennials, up to a quarter of them decide on the election day mismo. That's why I said, napaka naive to think yung survey ng late April would predict what happens in May, di ba? Come May. Because in the last 12 days or 11 days, still many things could change, right? Not to mention, of course, there are also tactical contingent, medyo intelligence gathering na yun. Ano yung mga ginawa ng INC? What were the negotiations on the ground? Command vote. I think that's given. That's something we have always been studying. But what's new right now is also this kind of a very interesting dynamic that this kind of a protean dynamic to the Gen Z vote and all. So I think all of us, in one way or another, kailangan natin pag-aralan yun because a lot is at stake. Ako naman, I'm looking at countries all around the world. Just the other day, I was on Monocle Radio again. So they were interviewing different people from dynastic democracies, right? So I did the Philippines because that's also the title of my new Journal of Democracy article, Dynastic Democracy. The guy after me was Pita. This is the guy who was supposed to be the Prime Minister of Thailand, 41 years old. Yung bata, yung naka-Ferrari, so he teaches now at Harvard Kennedy School. At marami daw siyang Pilipino na mga estudyante na who want to learn from the experience of Future Forward, Move Forward Party. So I'm saying if Thailand, which is an absolute monarchy, not really a democracy, not even a democracy in the Filipino sense of the word, was able to produce something like that, why can't we? But we are not going to go there if we don't get a couple of things together. So that's why I'm very happy about success of Akbayan, rise of new generation of leaders. But ano yun sabi nga ni Leni, di ba? Without a good theory, there's no good revolution. So for me, without a good understanding of the analytics, there would not be a transformative success in 2028. Jean, are there, before we wrap up, medyo Ezra Klein style yun, are there specific studies or your own works that you think people have to, that you believe people should check out to have a better understanding of the state of affairs and also your own research and focus? Yeah. Or may dapat silang hintayin na may palabas na working paper or something like that? Please share.
Yeah. I'm doing a research on the cost of politics.
Right.
It's funded by a UK-based NGO. And it's kind of different because the methodology is that it's qualitative.
Right.
So it's financial and non-financial costs of doing politics, especially on women and young people. So yeah, hopefully Richard, I can speak to you about it once we already have the findings.
Yeah, let's have a proper in-person na lang discussion about that. Yeah, definitely. Let's do that maybe with other analysts and all of that. And is there a working title? So far, wala
the
pa
price tag of democracy.
The price tag
Implications for women and young people who want to enter politics.
Perfect. Landyan lahat. Women, youth, at of course, as an Ilocano, the most important thing, pera. Datong.
Exactly.
Remember the first time we saw each other was in Vegan, right? I was like, wait, parang kilala ko to. Remember that in Vegan? Right? Did you have a sense another Ilocano will be back in Malacanang? No, I'm just kidding. Now, before, so, obviously, I just avoided talking about BBM. Maybe we can talk about BBM after the SONA na lang and what should be the priorities. But I'm glad at least today. Thank you so much, Professor Jean Franco, Dr. Franco, for giving us at least a kind of an insider's view. Parang ano ka rin para ka rin sila Bam and Kiko. Minority, majority. Ikaw, insider, outsider. Insider, outsider view. And obviously, next time, mas mahalaga pa yan sa BBM Talk natin, skincare. Kasi hindi ka lang pang politika, pang skincare rin. But because we had too many discussion of kilay, I think we had enough of aesthetic discussion today. We'll leave it to the next meeting. Thank you so much, Dr. Franco, and looking forward to catching up with you soon. God bless. Have a good day.
Take care. Bye-bye.
God bless. Thank you very much, guys. Ito talagang we're trying to expand and bring in as many great guests as possible. Si Dr. Jean Franco naman, kaibigan natin na matagal yan. Actually, I'm sorry, I only had her now. Dapat dati pa, but sabi ko, naka 1,000 episodes na tayo, so medyo kailangan natin mag-diversify. But more importantly, we're hoping to have a more wide spectrum of opinion dito sa show natin. Maybe hindi naman DDS pa, siguro baka awain pa tayo ng mga, no, but kidding aside, no, but also we want to make sure hindi puro toxic masculinity na sausage party. But no, but it's great to have guests like that, especially with Dr. Franco, because she has an experience working within the Senate, so alam na alam niya yung kalakaran sa loob. So I just felt it was important na magkaroon din tayo ng clarity, or at least facts first, right? Pagdating sa Senado. On that note, thank you very much. God bless. And if ever hindi tuloy yung discussion natin with Attorney Dino De Leon na hindi pa sumasagot yung itang kapsat natin, then I'll see you guys, God willing, next week on Monday. Our prayers and love for all of you, and thank you so much for your love and support. And of course, our continued prayers also for people in Gaza and different parts of the world who are suffering under really impossible conditions right now, including, of course, Catholic brothers and sisters here in Gaza. God bless, and talk to you soon.